Race 2A is about to get underway and we have a full grid, and as you can see, everyone already in the assembly area. The sun has actually come out to play today, and speaking of coming out to play, Will, back in pole position. Now, this is a circuit you would like, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we had a tough time here last year. We had a little coming together with John, had a bit of a spin, which took away a race win, but other than that, it's been a good circuit to me over the years. I've had a couple of fastest laps here, a couple of wins, so I'm liking it so far.
Well, you obviously won yesterday, so you must be doing something right.
The car's pretty fantastic. After I managed to blow up an engine at Pembrey in the last race, it's done a fantastic job getting an engine back together that's working quite nicely. So yeah, really happy with how it's going, and we'll see what we can do in the next two.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you. Right, we're going to hand it straight over to Andy to run you through all of the action.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, that win means that Will Blackwell Chambers has taken a couple of points now out of Championship leader John Langridge as well, and it also means he's on pole position for race 2 ahead of Brian Trott, then Langridge third with Steve Foden alongside, Joe Wiggin, Will Hayden, Ben Short and Martin Tollier next, whilst Matt Luff and Ben Hansey round out the top 10. Now, because this is our second A race of the weekend, that means we've had our first B race, and the top 5 finishers from that race are on the back of this grid. Adam Bessel, our first B winner of the weekend, and he has brought Sam Smith, Bryn Griffiths, Richard Wotton and Jack Moody through with him onto the back of the A grid. Bright and sunny conditions here then, a world away from the overcast and chilly weather we had yesterday for race 1. Race 2 is about to get underway then. Can Brian Trott get another victory? Can Will Blackwell Chambers take his third of the season? Let's find out. Lights out, away we go. The rush towards turn 1 was frenetic in race 1. It's equally so in race 2 with 1 or 2 cars taken to the grass further back there to try and make progress. On board with John Langridge, looking back at the very fast started Joe Wiggin. He started 5th and he's gained ground here off the line, most definitely. Through the first couple of corners we go, through this double apex right-hander at Charlie's. Blackwell Chambers leads, Trott second, Langridge third. Wiggin is up a position into 4th at the expense of Steve Foden, who's down to 5th. Ben Short, I think, has maintained his 7th place starting position. And behind, that's Seb Fisher giving the bump draft to Ben Hansey on the inside of Matt Luff towards Park Corner. Luff, the purple bumpered car on the outside line, could be about to lose out here. Onto the brakes for the first time really in this opening lap of the second race of the weekend. Everybody cleanly through the first few quarters this time. Then Bryn Griffiths there at the back of the grid in car number 31. Having another strong showing, having starred last time out at Pembrey, albeit in the B races, but he's again promoted himself from the B race to the A grid here this morning. And he's looking to try and make his way up through that grid, dropping down the hill towards Mansfield. There, the white and blue car on the inside is Adam Bessel, our first B race winner, and he's already passing cars. Look, Adam really ought to have better pace than he showed earlier on this weekend, because he was top 10 in the championship coming into Cadwell Park. Ben Hansey and Matt Luff are still at play meanwhile. Ben Hansey trying to go around the outside of the first part of the mountain, and someone was on the grass. I think it was Ben Short there, got a wheel on the grass as he came out of the right-hand elements of the mountain and crested the hill. Very lucky to catch that. He's got Will Hayden in the 65 car behind him now. So Will, who started 6th, Ben started 7th. They've swapped over somewhere around this opening lap. Martin Tollier there behind them, then Matt Luff, then Ben Hansey, then Seb Fisher in the 81 car there, the silver and purple striped car. The opening lap completed then. Will Blackwell Chambers leading the way, Brian Trott going with him. Now, hearing from Brian after the first race, he seemed to think that he had something for Blackwell Chambers, had the red flag not come out, so now it's money where your mouth this time for Brian, I suppose. He's with Will Blackwell Chambers, will hopefully get the full 20 minutes in this race as well, so good opportunity now for Brian Trott to try and steal another race victory here. Brian won the first race of the season at Brands Hatch and was on the podium again in the third race. Then missed Pembrey, so he really just needs to try and get a few more race victories if he can. Comes into this race 4th in the championship on dropped scores, but within 20 points of the championship lead. Championship lead being held by this man, John Langridge, as well. The gap came down by just 2 points in the previous race, because whilst John was 3rd and Blackwell Chambers won the race, John took the fastest lap, which is worth 2 points. So he only actually lost 2 points to Blackwell Chambers in the first race of the weekend. As things stand though, he could be about to lose a few more, because once again he's in 3rd position and watching the top 2 just pull a slight gap on him as they drop through Mansfield. Again, Joe Wiggin and Steve Foden are doing battle for 4th, but this time Wiggin is ahead of Foden, having finished 1 place behind him in the first race of the weekend. Through the mountain, the Blackwell Chambers car bounces its way through that very spectacular part of the circuit as the cars briefly disappear from view and then launch themselves back into our sights over the crest. one. Will Blackwell Chambers, though, we know what a dominant force he's been in recent years in Mazda MX-5 racing, and he's, in a way, becoming the new Tom Roach, isn't he? The new Mr. MX-5. You know that if you see Will Blackwell Chambers in a Mazda MX-5 race, particularly in Mark 1 machinery, that he's likely to be up there fighting for the wins. His championship results in recent seasons have proven that pace as well. And a change further back there, Ben Short has got himself ahead of Steve Foden now. So Foden, who half a lap ago was pressuring Joe Wiggin for 4th, has actually dropped down into 6th position now. No real surprise, though, to see Ben Short carving his way through here. He was another driver who I'm sure would have been fairly disappointed to see that red flag come out when it did, because the safety car had bunched the whole field up and he gained all of that time to the leading group of 6, but then, because of the red flag, didn't get any chance to capitalise on that. So Ben Short in the 71 car is into 5th position now. Really could do with getting up into the top 4 and maybe even going after a podium position. But you can see there the top 3 have really gapped everybody else. There's quite a difference in pace this weekend between the very quickest drivers and the sort of the back end of the top 10 drivers. But that's, again, to be expected, really. This is such a challenging circuit, Cadwell Park. It's not the kind of track that you can turn up at the first time and immediately be on the pace. And if you can, then you're a particularly talented driver. Floppy markers going flying there through the gooseneck. Again, that's not a real surprise either. Martin Tolley having to move over to the left to try and defend. There's someone up the inside, though. There's a bit of contact, a bit of a tap in the tail. That was Matt Luff trying to come through. And in the end, Matt decides that discretion was the better part of valour, backed out of the move, having made a brief bit of contact with Martin Tolley. Had he gone through as a result of that contact, he may have found himself in hot water with the clerk of the course. So, a wise decision taken to back out of it and try and find a cleaner way through at a later point. Despite 4th, though, has action written all over it. Joe Wiggin is now the man that's sending floppy marker posts flying, as he tries his best here to keep the rapid Ben Short at bay. Through the right-hander, tightest corner on the circuit, that, and then downhill steeply through the final turn. Matt Luff there just running a bit wide as he continues his chase of Martin Tolley. Seb Fisher looks to have lost a position as well, I reckon, there, at the back of that group. It's all for 4th position then, the black, pink and yellow car of Joe Wiggin, the back attack racing car in 4th position. The BS Motorsport car, self-prepared by Ben Short, is right behind him in 5th. Steve Foden carrying all the momentum in the world through the first turn there. Starting to become a menace as well in the mirrors of the number 71 car, Ben Short. Joint 2nd in the championship coming into this race is Ben. That became one of his dropped scores, actually, the previous race. So he went into this weekend joint 2nd. He's still joint 2nd despite the bad result in race 1, but he's now improving his potential result in race 2 because he drives around the outside of Joe Wiggin, and Steve Foden tries to follow him through as well. There's momentum and grip on that outside line if he can get the door closed into Charlie's, but I don't think he can. And so Joe Wiggin is still there. No, he has got it closed, so Foden's gone through as well. That was great opportunistic driving there. Used the slipstream from Ben Short's car in front, and we were riding on board with Foden through the first couple of corners. We could see that he was on it, and he has indeed been able to pick up a place as well. So put Ben Short into 4th, Steve Foden 5th, and down to 6th position, unfortunately, for Joe Wiggin. But he's a fighter, we know that, and he'll do his best to try and latch back onto the tail of the 2 cars in front. And maybe, if they all work together, they might be able to do something about the leading 3. From the right, left I should say, then the right, and the second part of the mountain. You can see there, all 4 wheels off the ground briefly. No wonder that's such a popular part of the circuit to spectate from, or if you're a photographer, then it's really a must that you go over to the mountain and get a few shots of the cars airborne as they appear into view. Was there a bit of a tap in the tail there, I wonder, from Steve Foden into Ben Short? Not intentional, I don't think, but maybe just enough to unsettle Ben. Steve Foden every bit the match for the established runners in this championship this year. He's going to try and get himself into championship contention. Right, side by side for the race lead here. Brian Trott around the outside of Will Blackwell Chambers. That's a phenomenal bit of driving. It buys him the inside line for the double apex right-hander and Charlie's, and Brian Trott has gone through. So new race leader then. Brian Trott looking for his 2nd victory of the season, but he didn't get a great exit from Charlie's there. And Blackwell Chambers tried to get up the inside line, can't do it. He's back in the tow though. Up the hill towards Park Corner. John Langridge sitting in 3rd place, wondering whether or not he can capitalise on all of this. Through the right-hander they go, and a remarkable battle this has been here. John Langridge then with the best seat in the house, watching Will Blackwell Chambers getting very out of shape through Chris Curve, and the edge of the road comes up to greet you very quickly. He was lucky not to end up on the grass there, and if you're on the grass, you're likely to make the barriers. And Blackwell Chambers will want to try and snap back here as soon as he can. He doesn't really want to let Brian Trott get into a rhythm, because if he does, Brian might just be able to pull away, or at the very least, build a couple of car lengths cushions so that Blackwell Chambers isn't able to attack quite as readily. Will they can see diving around in the mirrors, not really close enough to attack there, just trying to distract Brian Trott, force a mistake out of the race leader, but mistakes don't really come out of any of these three drivers all that often. They're bunching together though as they come out of the mountain into the Hall Bends though. It's not really an overtaking opportunity, and Blackwell Chambers knows it. He also knows that a non-finish would be disastrous, especially after that engine-related non-finish he had at Pembrey. Better to finish second than go for a move for the lead through the Hall Bends and end up taking both of them out. Potentially all three really, because Langridge is close enough that yes, he could capitalise if they tangle, but he could also equally end up getting involved in their contact should it happen. Well, Blackwell Chambers then now starting to try and size up Brian Trott, trying to find a way back through into the race lead. Through the first corner they go again. Once more on board with Langridge in third position. Who's going to get the better exit from Charlie's? On the previous lap it looked as though Blackwell Chambers was quicker out of this second part of the double apex right-hander, but Trott is inch perfect this time. Tidy out of the corner, immediately moves over to the right-hand side of the road to defend, hoping that Will Blackwell Chambers does not feel brave enough to go right around the outside of Park Corner. It can work, as we saw from Steve Foden a lap or so ago behind them, but on this occasion, no, they stay single file. Brian Trott hanging on. Brian's results at Brands Hatch were very, very consistent, and he'll be hoping to continue that consistent form throughout the rest of the year. If he does, he's definitely still in championship contention, but one more non-finish, or one more finish outside the top 10 or so could spell disaster for Brian, so he's got to tread carefully here. Yes, he's got the lead, and yes, he wants to keep it, but he can't go throwing wild blocks and defending overly aggressively, because if that were to go wrong, he could end up being the one that was fired off the road through the mountain. Again, Blackwell Chambers seems a bit neater through there, a bit quicker, but just can't really go anywhere with that momentum. Has to lift, and that's what brings Langridge onto his tail. Car sliding around through the Hall Bends. The cars are in a constant state of sidewaysness through that part of the circuit as they throw the car from right to left, and then hard on the brakes again for Barn Corner. On board with the Blink Motorsport car of John Langridge, third position, getting a double toe here across the start-finish line. We're into the second half now of this second race of the day. Round number 8 of the season. Langridge keeping watching brief, but you know that if he feels he's got the pace to get involved with these two, he will go for it, because he is the championship leader, and as things stand at the moment, he could be losing some points here to the two in front, especially given the fact Brian Trott has the fastest lap of the race. So Trott is on for maximum points if he hangs on to the race lead, but this time around Blackwell Chambers does go to the outside. The noses dip at the same time though, telling us that they braked at exactly the same moment. Could Blackwell Chambers get a switchback manoeuvre? No, Brian Trott gets to Chris Kerr first. In fact, Blackwell Chambers under more pressure now from Langridge than he is able to apply to Trott in front of him. It's a fascinating game of cat and mouse this, when you're the man in the middle, attacking and defending at the same time. You've got to be so careful. Oh, was that a mistake from Brian Trott? He looked a bit wide of the apex. Yes, he was. And Blackwell Chambers is back through. And also John Langridge. Is Brian Trott in trouble? It might have just been a missed gear, but for some reason, Brian Trott, he ran wide of the apex and then never really picked up speed coming out of the corner. And he's back down to third place again now. So will Blackwell Chambers back into the race lead? And what's more, John Langridge has gone through with him. So Langridge back into second position now, with Brian Trott down to third. And that was a very fortunate moment there for Blackwell Chambers, because without that mistake, I'm not convinced he was going to have an easy time getting past Brian. Brian, on the other hand, will be kicking himself, because he was, as I'd literally just said, on for maximum points in this race potentially, and it has not worked out the way he was hoping. In fact, he's, you can see, almost fallen back into the clutches of Ben Short and Steve Foden, who are still latched together behind them. So across the start-finish line again, and on board with John Langridge once again, but this time looking backwards at Brian Trott, and it will be interesting now to see whether or not Brian can close this gap back up again. Clearly has the pace with that fastest lap that he's set to prove it, but he's got some work to do now. This is the fight for fourth place between Ben Short and Steve Foden. Steve Foden, the 77 car, again trying to get a good exit from Charlie's. He's in the tow, and Ben Short not escaping from him here. I sense that they've been working together though, because their lap times have been pretty strong. Look at the way they pulled away from Joe Wiggin, and then side by side in the background, that might have been Matt Luff, I think, up the inside of possibly Ollie Allwood. Chris Curve again, and then the gooseneck, and Ben Short looking a bit ragged, if anything, here as he pushes on, trying to lead this pair of cars back onto the tail of the three cars in front, and with that mistake and that shuffling around that's gone on there involving Brian Trott, it's brought the top three a little bit closer to these two. But I don't know whether they're going to have quite enough time. They need the leaders to start tripping over each other again, which may well happen because they are teetering back together. Brian Trott is catching John Langridge, who is certainly not being dropped by Blackwell Chambers at the moment. There are the leading three. You can see they're almost back together again now, so that answers my question about whether or not Brian Trott was going to be able to catch the top two. Certainly appear that that is the case. So Blackwell Chambers, Langridge and Trott your top three. Then it's Short, Foden and Wiggin 4th, 5th and 6th. Wiggin the loneliest man in the race at the moment. He's sort of in no man's land, not quite with these two, but he's pulled away from the 7th place gaggle behind. On board with Foden, up through the gears. Let's listen in as he goes up towards Park Corner. Is there a lift through here? Don't think so. That felt like it was flat to the boards, and then again, he's quick through there, isn't he? He's particularly quick through the first corner. Seems to close in on Ben Short all the way through this first sector, really, and that's good because whilst it's difficult to overtake through the first couple of corners, a good exit from Charlie's, as we've seen, can open the door for an overtake into Park Corner. He's in the slipstream as well. Is he going to be close enough under braking to have a dive? I'm not sure he is, and Ben Short should hang on to the place in front of them, though. Looks as though for second place, Brian Trott and John Langridge are debating track position once again. The grey car still in front, you can see just off in the distance there. Some of the battles further down the order then. Scott Leach there has got the 24 car behind him, that's Oliver Graham. These are all drivers trying to stay out of the relegation positions right at the tail end of the field. Remember, the bottom 5 finishers in the first and second A races of the weekend get demoted onto the B grid, along with any, or including that is, any non-finishers. We've had a couple of non-finishers. Bryn Griffiths, I'm afraid, is out. So too is Adam Bessel, believe it or not. So Adam, having made his way through with a race 1B victory and was making good progress in the early stages of this one too, but unfortunately he is out. So those two will be relegated, and at the moment, unless we get any more non-finishers, 3 others, the bottom 3 finishers therefore from the race, will be demoted onto the B grid. For the time being, this group of cars are safe from that, but they're on the fringes of being in a relegation position. Number 91 there is Tom Smith, who started this race in 18th position. He's running maybe a couple of places above that. I think this is the fight for 15th position, actually. Right behind him, 55, excuse me, is Matt Pollard. And then Adam Craig, the yellow car, 29, the yellow car with the black stripe. Again, then, wherever you are in the order, someone to play with. Lots of great action up and down the field, including for the race lead. John Langridge, as I suspected would be the case, is not being dropped by Will Blackwell Chambers here. Similarly, he can't shake off the attentions of Brian Trott, who is now fully recovered from that moment. Whatever the moment was, hopefully we'll find out from Lyndsay on the podium post-race. Should Brian make the podium, which all things being equal he should, looked to me as if he just outbraked himself into the corner, and then maybe in the panic to get through the corner, missed a gear on the exit of the turn, and that's what cost him second place as well. Back with this battle further back then, Adam Craig has got Marcus Bailey behind him there. That's the second of the white and red cars in this train. Ahead of the group, though, we have had a change. Look, Tom Smith has been overtaken by the AB Motorsport car and Matt Pollard. Then 3 blue cars together, just behind them. Scott Leach still the first of those 3 blue machines. Tom Smith here trying to fight back up the inside of Pollard towards the gooseneck. This is a brave part of the circuit to run side by side, and Pollard didn't much fancy it, so he drops back in behind Smith. And the BS Motorsport squad gets back in front of the AB Motorsport squad run car. 2 of the sort of powerhouse teams really these days in Mazda MX-5 racing here in the UK. BS Motorsport is Ben Short's team. Ben Short, we've seen do great things with his car this year. Tom Smith's had his moments as well, particularly in some of the B races. B race winner at Brands Hatch earlier on this season was Tom. There you can see his number 91 car over the hill, back down into the braking zone. These positions changing hands fairly frequently though. Adam Craig there trying to be the next person to get past Matt Pollard. Oh, Tom Smith there wide out of Charlie's, and Pollard will sense the opportunity now. Yeah, look at that, much more speed on the exit of the corner. Draws himself alongside, and it looks as though the position is going to change hands once again. Yes, it does. So Pollard goes through, and Tom Smith will be ruining that little mistake, but it's very easily done. The road really drops away from you on the exit of Charlie's. Number 30 there is Dave Turton, just avoided relegation in the first race. finished 21st, and from 22nd on back were the drivers that got relegated, so he just avoided it by about half a second, just less than half a second he was, ahead of Richard Baxter, who was the first of the drivers to be demoted. Richard will therefore start on pole position for our second B race, and that, oh dear, that's Matt Pollard. So, having worked so hard to get past Tom Smith, he then made a mistake and goes off at at Mansfield, I should say. So Tom Smith is now back ahead of this group. So that's what, 4 times I think we've seen these two swap places in the last lap or so. Smith really has, Pollard, really has lost out this time, because not only has Tom Smith gone through, but so has everybody else. On to the final lap of the race then, and the battle out front is still between these three: Will Blackwell Chambers, John Langridge and Brian Trott. Blackwell Chambers, though, seems to have this one more or less under control. It looks as though Langridge made a mistake there out of Charlie's, though, so the fight, I think, is going to be the one for second place, as Langridge will have to defend his position up over the hill into the braking zone at Park. Trott tries the outside, tries the inside. They finished second and third in the previous race. Remember, there's been a contact there, and Trott's on the inside. Is he surely? Has he managed to get second place away from John Langridge? I was about to say they finished second and third, but in the other order in the previous race. And, well, no, they are still going to be in the other order for the time being, because Langridge, who was third in race 1, is still in second place, fending off Brian Trott's latest challenge. But that really has now gifted this one to Will Blackwell Chambers, who's now less than half a lap away from his second victory of the weekend. And his third of the championship. Had to wait though until the 5th race of the season, race number 2 at Pembrey, to get his first victory, did Will. And such is his advantage that he feels comfortable enough to wave to his cheering supporters sat outside the Cadwell Park cafe up at the top of the mountain. And Blackwell Chambers, by Mazda MX-5 racing terms, has had this one fairly easy. I know that he's had to fought his way back through into the race lead ahead of Brian Trott, but ever since then, he really has been able to stroke it home, and for the 3rd time in 2019, the race victory is taken by Will Blackwell Chambers. A brilliant drive by Will, and that will further close down this championship advantage held by John Langridge. Brian Trott will come home in second position. And, John Langridge will come home in second position, Brian Trott down in third, Steve Foden and Ben Shaw 4th and 5th, ahead of Joe Wiggin, Ollie Allwood, Sam Smith up into 8th. That was a good result for him, having started 23rd. Then Will Hayden and Matt Luff rounding out the top 10. Martin Tolley is next, Jack Brewer. The relegation spots, by the way, will Bryn Griffiths and Adam Bessel were non-finishers. So too in the end was Seb Fisher, so they will be relegated. So too will Richard Wotton and David Waters.
Will, congratulations on coming pole again. How was the race? Because I know Brian just pegged you for a little bit of it.
I decided to miss a gear coming out the corner, which then got dirt on my tyres and then slid through the final corner onto the pit straight. So Brian did a fantastic move around the outside, very brave, but very, very nicely driven. And we just about got through there, and I didn't think I was going to get back in front, to be honest. He defended fantastically. It was really difficult to even get a look in. But sadly, at the bottom of Mansfield, he decided that his favourite gear was neutral, so we got back past.
John, close racing there, particularly sitting behind Will and Brian, and you came through into second. Looked like Brian had a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Brian pulled off an incredible manoeuvre around the outside of turn 1 to take the lead, and it was really impressive, I have to say. And then he must have had a problem at Mansfield, because he had a box neutrals or something, and Will and I he just gave it to us, unfortunately, but for him. You know, the fresh cold car prepared by Blink was so good that I was able to stick with these guys, because I don't think we're quite as quick yet, but we've got another chance later on to rectify that.
Brian, a cracking start there. That was really good to watch. But then some problems partway through the race.
Yeah, I mean, I got off the line well and held. I think it was, I was in the mix, and I could see, especially early in the race, my car was handling really well. Will had already started defending, so I knew that from that early that I'd have to pull off a fairly decent move. And coming out of the last corner, he got a bit sideways, and I had to run on him down the front straight. And I thought, I'm just going for it around the outside at turn 1 on the dirty line, and the car did go light as I went in there, and I skated a bit, but I kept it committed, came out the other side, and led the race. And as he already started defending, then I didn't show him the inside line until I got a box of neutrals going into Mansfield a couple of laps later, which was annoying. I thought the box had gone, but I managed to eventually find a gear, and then was really careful with the box after that, and I still managed to catch him up. I had a half move on John on the last lap as well at the top of the circuit, but it was a 50-50, and I pulled out of it. I don't want to see him off. So yeah, it was a good, fun race, and just what it might have been, I think.